everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. Honored to be with you today. Wow. Did you check out what I said today's message is? Did you see it as you were clicking in? Don't complain. Okay, those two words mean so much. I guess they're three words. Do not complain. Uh, I thought it was an important message for all of us because it is so easy for us to do exactly that thing that doesn't really serve us. And we can easily slip into it complaining about something that's going not quite so right in our lives, about other people, about situations. And we all do it, if we're honest. Everybody has those moments when it's easier to go on and on and on about something. But I love the idea of practicing not doing it, of practicing claiming the positive instead, of practicing allowing something good to take precedence over whatever the negativity that is happening in the course of a day, whatever that might be. And so I thought I would bring it to all of us to contemplate. Let's think about for a moment, when do you complain? Think about that. If you just imagine your day, could be this day that we're in, since you woke up, have you complained at all? Has there been anything on your mind that made you feel agitated, that bothered you, something you remembered from yesterday or days before, something you're thinking about that could be on the horizon that's causing you some agitation? Have there been any complaints in your brain today? Even if you didn't say them out loud. Have there been any complaints just moving around in your being? And for most of us, the answer is probably yes. There's something that is bothering us. But what do you do with it? Especially if you haven't articulated it yet. You're not saying it, instead you are experiencing it. It's something that's in your consciousness. What if you choose not to say that thing? What if you choose not to put it into words or put it into action? What if you made a different choice? And we know that the power of choice is something that we all have, and we don't always recognize that we have that power, but we do. We all have the power to make a decision about what we are going to think next, say next, do next. That is within our individual power. Now, we don't always realize it because when things are set in motion, it can sometimes feel like, well, there's nothing I can do. I have to go with the flow. I have to go with whatever it is. I have to stay in this conversation or whatever the moment, whatever's happening in the moment. But actually, we have the power to change the moment. We have the power to be in a moment in a different way. It does require consciousness, being aware of whatever is going on and being aware of the fact that we have the ability to do whatever it is that we want to do. But that takes a lot of awareness and self-control. And a lot of times we aren't engaging all of those things. It's like holding it's using muscles that you've developed over time. Now, if you haven't developed them, then it's harder to do. But just like any other practice, if you practice being positive, looking for the good in a situation, resisting the complaint, if you practice it, it makes it easier over time. I think about this particular thing about not complaining because my mother would say it all the time, that, choose the positive. Stop complaining. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear you going on and on about something that isn't working. Instead, choose something positive that you can think about, talk about, and share. Something that you would like to share with other people. And there's a quote, I want us to pull it up now. quote, I had to look to see where is this quote coming from because it's so common and it's said in a couple of different ways. This is the way my mother used to say it. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. I know you've heard a version of this. I think the actual quote is if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But it was the good that was what my mother used to say. This is from the movie Bambi, from Thumper and Bambi, the original version of this movie, which I think is just fascinating and it was a life lesson for this character in the movie. But think about it. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. How often will you be quiet? If you honor that, if you practice that, I want you to think about it really fully. And so Sherry writes, good morning. I conducted an experiment with my family to have a no complaining week. It took great intention, but there was a palpable shift in our energy, focus, and outlook. Then we fell back into the familiar. Time to get back into that. Thank you, Sherry. And you have a blessed day too. It's, Laura saying, thank you. I needed to hear this today. I will have a much better day now. Just bring my attention to this, the power of choice. So let me share with you. You can take the quote down, Fallon. I was talking to my team right before we jumped on, and first to my producer, and I said, so how was your weekend? And she sort of took a deep breath, and I could hear her forming a smile. And you know how we make the choice to form the smile, like, okay, what happened? And she proceeded to tell me a good thing first, and she had thought about it, and she chose to find the great thing, which was that she found a candle that she thought she'd never any new candles. And I'm a candle lover, so I'm with her on that. Oh, she found a candle. But why she found a candle is that her kitchen cabinets fell down. Nobody got hurt. But I know for a fact it took conscious intention for her to figure out how to hold on to something positive and really herald that positive thing when something negative had just happened. This is a perfect example. Thank you for sharing it with me, Fallon, of the power of choice. You can choose to be mad, angry, sad, forlorn, all the things broken because of something that happens, because things happen all the time. Or you can choose to look for a positive thing in a situation. And by the way, it does not mean that you negate what happened. Val's going to have to deal with her kitchen. She can't just go, okay, I found a candle, now I'm good. No, she has to deal with what is before her. But she found a little bit of joy in a moment that wasn't joyful, that actually could have been hurtful, and thank God it wasn't. What about you? Think about what's going on in your life right now that may create friction, that may cause difficulty. And then what do you do? What can you do? Virginia says, I make an effort to be on time, but no one else around me seems to make that same effort. That's tough. We can only control ourselves, and we can't even control ourselves all the time. That's one of the challenges of life, right? Being able to control ourselves is number one. We can inspire others to be on time. We can invite people to, if you know people's patterns, it may also be, we're planning to start whatever it is at 9:00. Why don't you try to come a few minutes early just so we can be settled by the time this is to begin, Fallon says there's joy in finding the joy. Indeed, there is. My sister Stephanie has said for a long time, and this would be coming in moments when there was tension or friction or something that could derail the moment. And she said that I will never let anybody steal my joy. And she says, don't you let anybody steal your joy. Think about that. Think about what happens in life as you go through your days. Things are going on. Life is happening. Ups and downs are happening. Challenges are before you every single day. Sometimes we get our feelings hurt. Sometimes We are disappointed. Sometimes we don't do our best and we're disappointed in ourselves. We do not have to let ourselves succumb to the negativity. Because when you choose the positive, positive things happen. So my best example of this, which I probably have shared at some point during inspiration over the years, because this message, don't complain, and if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. My mother used to, it was like a chant almost, as I recall it in my head. And my sisters tell me they heard other things that she was saying that were on repeat, but I certainly heard this. So one day, many, many years ago, I was at my job, which I very much liked my job, but there was a lot of friction. And so I've talked about a lot of these pieces. Friction can be a good thing, although it doesn't feel like it in the moment. So there was a lot of friction. I was not happy in that moment. And I was going to an event. And I remember my mother saying, don't go out. If you can't figure out how to say something good, stay home. You don't want to go out and be with people and complain. So I wanted to go to this event. I decided to go, and I heard my mother's wisdom. So I'm sitting there. I sit down. There's an empty chair next to me, and a man I know comes and sits down and says, "Hi, Harriet. How you doing? What are you up to?" Now, at the time, I had a very big job. It was very public. I was running the fashion department of Essence magazine. I loved working at Essence, but this was a period there was friction. It was towards the end of my time being there. So even though it was a great job, I wasn't happy in that moment. But I didn't say that because I heard my mother's voice. Instead, he said, "What are you up to, Harriet?" And he knew what my job was anyhow. I told him about a book that I was working on. I'd just gotten a contract for, I hadn't written a word, I just started doing research on. And it's a book called How to Be. Some of you may be aware of it. I wrote it 25 years ago. It's Etiquette Plus, how to navigate your life with grace and integrity, understanding from where you come and what is expected where you're headed. And I told him that, and he said, "Oh, do you think you could teach that to my artists?" I said, "Teach what?" He said, "Teach them how to be, like old Motown." And I said, "Sure. Why not? Say yes. Say yes." That man was Andre Harrell. He was the president of Uptown Records, which is where Mary J. Blige and Heavy D and Jodeci and Puffy, all these people were there at the time. And I left Essence soon after that. I had a book contract. I was helping to start another magazine called Savoy. And I began my business coaching people in the entertainment industry. So kind of taking people off the page and helping them learn how to be confident and tell their story. All because I claimed something positive. Now, I was already doing it, but in my head, there was a complaint. I had complaints about some of the things that were happening at work that I didn't like. And the complaint was there, and the book was there. And I chose to talk about the positive thing in that moment. And as a result of doing that, what happened? The doors opened. That was more than 30 years ago. And I have worked with all kinds of people in the music industry, teaching them how to tell their story, with corporate executives, with students. I mean, the list goes on. It's years and years of supporting people to be able to do what we're doing now, to leap into their greatness. It happened because I didn't complain. Why am I telling you this story? Because the power of being positive and not complaining, resisting complaining, even when you really want to, it works. I promise you, it works. It works. It works. It's you harnessing your power and your intention and deciding how you're going to move forward. It's you having the discipline of not just saying whatever comes to mind, but instead of being intentional about what you put out there. Like my dear friend Lejeune and I talk about all the time, being conscious and intentional. conscious and intentional. It requires a pause. It requires self-control. It requires you engaging your power. What do you want to put out there? What do you want to say? What do you want to offer to the world? Because what you offer to the world is what comes back. And guess what? We are not always good at this. I'm not always good at it. But what happens when you are good at it? And you can actually compare moments when you were good, when you were disciplined, when what you put out there is what you really wanted to share with others, the seeds that you want to plant and pollinate the world. How do you feel and what happens when you do that compared to some of those moments, I wish I hadn't said that. I wish I hadn't done that. And to that end, what happens when you have said or done something that isn't really serving the moment? What do you do about it? You know, just even this weekend, I said something that was more than I probably should have said to someone. And I doubled back and I said, keep that to yourself, please. And we made an agreement that we would. None of us does the exact right thing all the time. I mean, it's just not part of human nature to be on point every second. But what happens when you're not? Double back and fix it. What happens when you do your best, but it's not good enough? Be willing to go the distance and do more. Do better next time. Another interesting thing happened to me in the past few days. I'm working on a big project. There's a lot on the line. There are a lot of moving parts. And there was a moment in a group interaction that didn't go very well. There was a lot of friction, and in particular coming from one of the team members, and I was very upset. And so I wrote down how I felt about it. And I knew that I should not share what I wrote in that moment. I've already done that practice of you can write things down, but you pause, especially if you're feeling emotional. So I paused. Then I shared what I'd written in my thoughts with one person who was like, And then I shared it with someone else. So these two people are confidants for me, especially in this moment. And they helped me. And then I let it sit, and I decided I wasn't going to do anything with it over the weekend. I wasn't going to buy into the urgency that I first had. I need to address this right this second. I paused. And today, a few days later, I am calm. I did not lash out. I did not complain. I did not do something that might have caused more negative repercussions than would have been worth it. Instead, I've allowed myself to just let it go and then come back to it from a neutral perspective rather than a charged perspective. Now, I feel confident that other people have been in this position. Something happens, you feel hot. You want to put people in their place. You don't like how you've been treated, blah, 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 blah. All of us have been there. What do you do when that happens? So my process, I'm going to repeat it because this might be something that is good for you too. Write down how you feel first and don't share it. That's important. Write it down. Don't push send. Don't make a voicemail message. Don't do that. Write it down. Look at it. Allow yourself to get all the feelings out, the raw feelings, let them out. If you have people you trust, ask if they would be willing to hear you out or read it, however you want to share it, and listen to the advice that you're given. And sometimes for the person asked to do that, sometimes it's just being a listener, being willing to hear and not having an opinion, But if the person is able to receive an opinion, sharing a heartfelt opinion. And often the opinion that I've received and that I've given in moments like this is pause. Don't do anything yet. Don't complain. Don't complain. And then allow yourself to be at peace. For me, it's meditation. It's I'm in my happy place. It's going to the water, being still, and allowing the stillness and your presence and power, your own power, to calm you down and help you see a better way. And then you take action. That requires time. You have to give yourself time. You have to believe that there is enough time. And sometimes you have to act in the moment, but a lot of times you don't. So I see there a number of folks writing in. Let me tell you, a lot of people are energized by this, which I certainly do appreciate. Bonnie says, "You've always been such a bright light. We see you." Thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. Cozy Home Life says, "I like to read my Bible and pray and meditate. That is how I pause and get centered. Applying Bible principles in my life gives me the peace and direction needed." Yes, and my sister, Stephanie, was telling me just yesterday, she subscribes to, it's not the Daily Word, but it's something like that that gives you Bible verses every day. And she reads them every day and does the contemplation, and that helps to set her day. I love that. And what I do on Inspiration, what I attempt to do is to make this non specifically religious. Obviously, it is spiritual, it is connected to the divine. I know people practice their faith in so many different ways. I want everybody to feel welcome, whether they are of a particular religion or not, because in my learning, I see, first of all, I believe that there's one God and that we understand God in different ways based upon however we were taught. But if you read the scriptures from the major religions, there's so many things that are identical, very, very similar. Trying to understand this great power that we call God is kind of, it's beyond the scope of our full awareness, but worth every moment of contemplation. So whatever the way in is, I say do it. And prayer and meditation, reading scripture, reading the good words of others who have committed themselves to uplifting humanity, doesn't that help to make life better? I definitely think it does. And so for me, it is essential. And I'm so glad that for so many of you, it is now as well. So going back to this notion of, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. I interviewed a woman on my other Dreamleapers podcast, which airs on Saturdays, a woman named Mary Fisher, wonderful woman, who talked about her transformation. Her interview is worth watching or listening to. Maybe, Fallon, you can put it in the chat. Mary talked about the way she grew up and then who she became. So based on her age and station in life, she grew up understanding that women should be silent, that women should not talk that much, let alone complain. And so it was the responsibility and role of the female to put a smile on and just go with the flow. I want to be very clear that that is not what I'm saying. What, in her case, what happened, huge thing that happened is she contracted HIV back in 1991, I think. She was married with children. And as a white woman of a certain background, a privileged person, the people in the HIV/AIDS community, who the activists, met her and wanted her to speak up and talk about what she was going through, because for a woman, a white woman, to be going through this, it kind of showed that this is not what they had labeled as a gay disease. It's broader. It's impacting everyone. And reluctantly, she considered it because this is her moving past silence, which is what she was taught that she should be as a proper young lady, to having a voice. She ended up speaking at the Republican National Convention, whatever year that was, about her condition. She ended up not intentionally, but becoming a spokesperson for health as it relates to HIV/AIDS. Why do I mention this? I want to make sure that you understand when I say, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. It does not mean be silent. It does not mean swallow your experiences. It does not mean just be a proper whatever. It means choose your words, choose your messages carefully, and share them in the right moments with the greatest impact. And in Mary's case, she broke through from restrictions that had been placed upon her on how to live in order to help save lives. And as a matter of fact, she's gone all over the world speaking on behalf of people who are afflicted with HIV/AIDS, and she's still living. What a blessing. And now that there are different kinds of medications, many people are still living. But she ended up being a very, very important voice, not a voice of complaint, a voice of awareness, a voice of activism. So I bring her up for us to understand. Please do not think that I'm saying just go sit in the corner and be quiet and take whatever life gives you. That is not it at all. I am saying create your life, design your life, live your life, stand up for what you believe in. You can agitate for things. That's not the same as complaining in my book. And I should also say, there are some people who are activists who are complaining all the time, talking about others. For me personally, that doesn't work. I don't want to hear that. I would rather hear about the solutions. Yes, this is a problem, and here's a solution for that. Here's something that's not working, here's a solution for that. I like it that way. This is me. When people complain all the time, it brings me down and I don't want to listen. But I want to be clear. I'm not saying to any of us that we should just be quiet. I'm saying choose something positive that you can offer to the universe and bring that forth. If it is a solution to a problem and you have to share this is the problem, fine. But don't just share the problem, share a solution. You probably have heard this in a work situation. Your boss does not want you to be the person every time you go to your boss's office, it's with a complaint. This isn't happening. This is going on. If you're that person, as you get near your boss's office, your boss kind of cringes because he or she knows something negative is coming that I have to solve. But if you come, here's a problem and here's a recommendation for a solution, I can breathe because you're being proactive. I hope this is coming through so you can kind of hear what I'm getting at. In no way am I saying you should be docile, you should suck it up. I am saying be conscious and intentional. Understand whatever the negativity is that's around you and look for a solution so that you can rise above whatever that is and move into a great experience and bring people along with you. If something bad is happening, examine it and look for a way to turn it into good, to turn your experience into good, to help others have a positive experience. Life is sweet when you do that. And it doesn't mean that it's easy to do, but it's worth it. So I hope I hope that this is sinking in. I'm looking at some of the comments we've got. I'll share before we go. Bonnie says, my mother also taught me the same. Not everything requires a response. I have been told that I have a smile that communicates volumes. It is my way of pausing until I have clarity. I never sit on lives this long. Is that what you mean? But this talk, oh, on live broadcast. Well, thank you for staying here. But this talk is so rich. Please save it for those who might miss this. So, Bonnie says she began a daily message to her followers. Everybody who's written in, thank you for doing so. This broadcast lives, we don't take it down, and it's on all my various social media as well as on my website, harrietcole.com. I hope that you will take this message with you as through this day and through each day this week, and practice not complaining. Practice looking for the solution and entering that space, because it'll make your life sweeter and everybody around you will benefit from you choosing the positive. So thank you so much for joining me today. I wish you all the best as you move through this day and beyond. And until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.